Hello everyone, I'm Sahil from Code Help. Welcome to our complete TypeScript series. In this video, we'll be seeing how a TypeScript compiler actually works. In the last video, we already have TypeScript installed on our computers, so you can go and have a look at prior video where I have explained the complete setup for TypeScript. But for those who are new, let me install TypeScript once again. So to start with, open a new terminal. In the terminal, type sudo npm install --g, which is for global installation, space TypeScript, and press enter. It will ask you to enter your authentication password, enter it, and compiler will be installed. Now to check the version of your compiler, type tsc-v and it will show you the version. In our case, it is 4.5.5. Also, as tsc command has worked fine, so that means the compiler is also installed successfully. Now we have TypeScript. So now we can go ahead and create some TypeScript and compile it down into JavaScript. So I have already created a folder ts compiler, and in that folder I have index.html. So it's nothing, just a plain HTML, written some code, and I have included my index.js file in my HTML. So before moving on to that, let me tell you about an extension which I'm using in this project. Let's go to extension, type live server. So it's basically to reload our index.html simultaneously with code change. So this is the first one. It's by Ritvik Day, just to confirm. Now you can click on install. So this extension will enable us for live reloading if we make any change in any of the project component in our code base. Now let's see how to use it. You can enable it either from the bottom right hand side on this go live button, or you can go to index.html and right click and click on open with live server, and this will open the app in your default browser, so we can see it as a app has been run. So let's go to index.js, which is currently a blank file, as we don't want to write any JavaScript but rather TypeScript. So enough have been talked. Now let's write some TypeScript code. So for that, we will have to create a new TypeScript file. Let's create one. Now click on this new file option. Let's name it as index.ts, where ts is the extension stands for TypeScript. Now let's start to write some code in TypeScript, and like I said, it's very similar to JavaScript. So let me create a variable, let message is equal to, let me assign it to a string, code help, which is very similar to JavaScript, as we can do the same thing in JavaScript as well. And now let's say I could then console.log the message to log this to the console. Okay, so let me write welcome to and then append our string to it, message. So on the application it should show as welcome to code help. Now also I could do other things here as well, like we can do in JavaScript. So let me write a set timeout function, and in that function, let's say we show an alert which would say that working of a TypeScript compiler. So let's do that. So now let's say this will trigger after 3 seconds. Now if I save this file and check it what's actually logged in the console. So let me open up the browser, open the console. So nothing is actually going to be logged in the console, and that's because we have written our code in the TypeScript file right here, and our HTML is pointing to index.js file. So the index.ts file is not even being loaded in the browser. It's a JS file which is being loaded. But even if, let's say, the TS file would have been loaded in the browser, even then it would not have worked because the browser does not understand TypeScript. So let's change the JS to TS and try whether the browser understands it or not. Now let's move to the browser and check. So we already have an error here that index.ts is not executable. So this makes sense as browser is not able to understand the TypeScript file. So let me change the TS from here to JS once again. Now, if we check, the error has gone. So the JS file is not causing any issue. So now, what we have to do is compile this down into JavaScript, even though this looks exactly the same as JavaScript, but it's not. It's a TypeScript file. So we have to compile this down into a JavaScript in order for it to be understood by the browser. So how do we compile this file from TypeScript into JavaScript? So for that, let's open a new terminal, and in the new terminal, check directory for terminal, as it should be the same as of your index.js file. In case if it's not, then make it to point to index.js directory. In the new terminal, type tsc index.ts space index.js. So basically, we want to convert or compile the index.ts file into index.js file. So we want to take this code from the ts and we want to compile it to JavaScript and output it onto the index.js file. Now, when the output file is named the same as the input file, index and index, then we could just take off this last index.js from here, and then TypeScript automatically compiles it to a file with the same name but just with a JavaScript extension. And let's say if the file did not exist, then it will create it. So let me just delete our index.js file and then execute the command. So now you can see we have the index.js file. So let's just see what it holds. So it looks exactly the same. We can see just a minor difference that it's not using let, instead it is using var, as let is a pretty new feature and which is not supported everywhere in JavaScript. Now coming to index.ts, we have this error over here on this variable message. If I hover over it, it says cannot redeclare block scope variable message. The only reason behind the error is that we have the variable message in both of the files, index.js and index.ts. And if we close any one of the file from the editor, the error would go away. Also, it would not cause any issue in our implementation, as the browser is never going to render the TypeScript file. So now, as we have compiled the code from TypeScript file into a JavaScript file, so let's check how it looks in the browser. So now in the browser we are able to see the message and also the alert came up. So that means that our compilation of TypeScript to JavaScript has worked successfully. So now in the workspace, let's open our index.ts file and do some changes. So let me add a space after welcome to, and let's remove the abbreviation and write TypeScript and reduce the alert time from 3 seconds to 1.5 seconds. Now let's see whether our changes are showing in the browser or not. So in the browser, in console, it's still coming welcome to code help without space. So the changes are not yet reflected because we have made the changes in TypeScript file and we have not compiled it yet. Let's compile it, tsc index.ts, and now let's move to our index.js file and verify our changes. So we have a space after welcome to, time is also reduced, and TypeScript is also coming. Let's move to the browser. Let's reload our page. Now we are able to see all the changes which we did. So isn't it super easy to compile a TypeScript file to JavaScript file? But it's a little inconvenient as well. Like we are manually recompiling every time we are making any change. So let's find a solution to that. So now write tsc space index.ts, and now we have a command that TypeScript compiler provides us, which is -w, which stands for watch. This will put a watch on our TypeScript file and will recompile it automatically whenever it will encounter any change. So let me run it and go to our index.ts file. Let me do some change over here. So let me change the message to welcome to code help and remove it from the console.log and make it to log directly the message only. So let's save it. It's going to recompile, and if there are any errors that would come in terminal. So let's move to the browser. Here we can see we have the updated message. So it has recompiled automatically. So here it is clear that we need the TypeScript compiler, as browser cannot directly understand TypeScript. And also, how can we use the TypeScript compiler to recompile our TS file to JS file. I hope this video helped you, and if it did, please like it, leave a comment, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thank you friends, see you in the next lecture.